Hello, everyone. If you've landed here, you've landed on Let's Talk News. I'm your host, Leticia Remauro, and I'm hoping that we're not going to have any technical difficulties tonight. I kind of jerry-rigged the computer, so if it feels like I'm looking down, it's not intentional. I've got a different kind of camera and blah 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 blah. But the good news is tomorrow the new computer comes. So hopefully, if I can figure it all out by Sunday's show, all will be well. But that's my problem, not your problem. I want to thank you for all tuning in. It's great to have you to our show tonight, where we're going to discuss Marco Rubio. And as you all know, he is just my absolute favorite person in the Trump administration. And frankly, I hope he goes on to be our next president. But he held a press conference the other day that was absolutely insane. And tonight's show is going to be all about that press conference. And I am going to say hello to everybody because I could see your comments tonight. But before I do, I just want to let you know that Marco is the son of Cuban immigrants. He grew up in a working class household, and they were, very Catholic. He's married to Jeanette Debes. And she was a bank teller in Florida, and she was a Miami Dolphins cheerleader. And she's Colombian. So he graduated from South Miami Senior High School. He grew up in Miami. He attended Torrijos College in Missouri on a football scholarship. So little Marco actually played football. So he earned a BA in political science from the University of Florida and a JD cum laude from the University of Miami School of Law. He worked for U.S. Rep. Elena Ross when he was in law school. He served on the West Miami City Commission from 1998 to 2000. He was elected to the Florida House of Representatives in 2000 and then reelected until he was elected to the Senate in 2011. And he stayed as a senator until he became our Secretary of State. So he's a smart guy. And what I just love about him is it seems like he's always got the answers. He's just always got them. And you're going to see in a minute. But first, I want to say hello to everybody because last night I couldn't see your comments and it was terrible. So everybody comment a lot. And we'll have a poll. We'll do all the things. Hi, Francine. Good to have you. Hi, Kevin Wall from the other side of the earth, but not the other side of the issues. Hi, Angela Ricca. Good to have you, my right arm. Hello. Yes, Mom is doing much better today. It's still tough. She's got a lot of breaks, and she's 85. And, right? She's 85? 85. She's going to be 86. But they got her up, and they're moving her from chair to chair. She's doing therapy. She's doing okay. Hi, Jeff. How are you? Good evening, Kevin Young. Hello, Andrew Dorman, and hello, Professor. Let's see. I'll put the poll up in a minute, but first I want to start with the question that I think was really important in that press conference, and I love the answer, is, basically why we're in the Iran war and what's going on. So, I'm going to show you.
All right, let's get to the front. These guys are going to get mad. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Simon Kennedy, Associated Press. You mentioned earlier that some countries have privately and publicly indicated their willingness to help with Project Freedom. Can you say how many have reached out to the U.S. with the offers of help and what kind of capabilities?
Well, thank you for your question. That's a good question. I mean, multiple countries have said we got to do something about it and fix it.
Is it like dozens or single digits or more than 100?
I don't know. I don't put a number on it. I would just tell you that here's what I would say about it. The capabilities is the issue, okay? A lot of countries would love to do something about it. They don't have a Navy, right? Or they can't get there in time, or they can't. Others, are less, that some unfortunately do have a Navy are saying, oh, we'll be involved, but we'll be involved after it's over. Well, after it's over, it's kind of like, That makes sense. So, we'd like to have it. Now, there may be some utility in a post, closure mission. I'm not downplaying that, but I think that's been the challenge. But there are other ways they can help, unique ways that they can help. And I don't want to get into who these countries are for obvious reasons, because they are prepared to help us in certain ways, but maybe don't want that publicly disclosed for no other reason than it impact their foreign policy. It could have some domestic ramifications. But ultimately, I don't want to mislead you. The primary responsibility for this Project Freedom is on the United States, because we're the only country that can project power in that part of the world the way we're doing now. We're the only ones that can do it, and we're going to do it as a favor to the world. Understand this. This is a favor to the world because it's their ships that are stranded. It's their fuel supplies that are stranded. By the way, it's there's humanitarian aid destined for different countries in the world that's stranded in the Persian Gulf right now. It's the fertilizer that they need for their food and crops that's stranded in the Persian, not our fertilizer, their fertilizer. So we want to be helpful, and that's why the president stepped forward, because we're the only ones that can. Frankly, we're the only ones that can.
Mr. Secretary, on the rising oil and gas prices, the president has said that this is a small price to pay for getting rid of a nuclear weapon. But 10 weeks in, are we any closer to getting rid of Iran's nuclear material?
Yeah, but look, here's the way to think about Iran, and this is what I described at the very beginning of this. What was Iran's plan? You have to understand what their plan was. Their plan was they were going to build this conventional shield where they would have so many thousands of missiles and drones and rockets that they couldn't be attacked. And behind that conventional shield that they were trying to build, they would then break out and do whatever they wanted with their nuclear program. They no longer have that conventional shield. Okay, we told you guys from the very beginning, and we're very consistent in this messaging. The operation that has concluded was going to destroy their Navy. They have no Navy left. They don't. Not a Navy. They have small boats and Boston whalers, but they don't have a Navy left. They don't have an Air Force. I challenge you. When is the last time you read or heard about an Iranian jet flying anywhere? They don't have an Air Force. Their missile launching capability has been substantially degraded, and their industrial base, their defense industrial base, has been severely, severely damaged. So their ability to build a shield behind which they could hide their nuclear program was wiped out. That's a very substantial achievement, and that was the purpose of this operation from day one.
Their nuclear material in order for this war to end.
Well, that's one of the topics that needs to be discussed. I don't know about. I think you're linking it. The operation is over. Epic Fury, as the president notified Congress, we're done with that stage of it. Okay, we're now on to this project of freedom. As far as a negotiation is concerned, I think the president's been clear that part of the negotiation process has to be not just the enrichment, but what happens to this material that's buried deep somewhere that they still have access to if they ever wanted to dig it out. That has to be addressed, and that's being addressed in the negotiation. I'm not going to go further on what progress has been made on that topic because I don't want to endanger the negotiations, but suffice it to say that the president and this entire team is aware of the centrality of that question, and that will have to be addressed one way or the other.
I have never heard a better explanation about why why we did what we did with Iran and where we are right now than that one. And the question that I have is, has anybody seen it anywhere? Have you read it anywhere? I haven't. Even on Fox, they kind of gloss over it. The fact that we're done with Epic Fury, the fact that, is all we keep hearing is, the War Powers Act and, in the Senate and all this stuff. Well, there's nothing to vote on. We're not in war, and their military is gone. So yeah, he's a smart man. He really is a smart man. Hello there, Ramon. How are you? Hi, Colleen. Ramon says America will beat Iran and we will win. I agree. I think we did beat him already. Hi, Susan DeRema. Good to have you. It's clear we beat them because what the Secretary of State said and is true. When have you heard about any of their military? They are, if it wasn't for Iran and China, Russia and China, Iran would have nothing right now. So, and we're stopping that too. I ran the other day, was it today or yesterday? I can't remember. Today. They bombed a Chinese tanker ship. So their goal is to start on Armageddon because that's what their religion wants, and that's what they want to start. Okay, so we got a new poll. Okay, who would you vote for to be the Republican nominee for president 2028? Type 1 if it's J.D. Vance. Type 2 if it's Marco Rubio. type 3 if it's Gavin Newsom, or type 4 if it's someone else. All right, so that's our poll tonight. Who do you want to be the Republican? Well, it's a Republican nominee, and I put Newsom in there, but as a joke. But yeah, let's see. Iran was evil. Well, they still are evil, but they don't have a military anymore, basically. Hello, War Guard. Good to have you. Big Marco, Secretary of State, Press Secretary, President of Venezuela, and soon to be President of Cuba. Excellent. That is very, very true. Yeah. So, who do you want? You just put your number in the comments. 1 is Vance, 2 is Rubio, 3 is Newsom, and 4 is someone else. And if it's someone else, I want to know who, and I want to know why. Well, I want to know who anyway. So hi, Tom McMurray. Hope you're feeling great. Hope you're feeling great. Why is it not registering? I don't know why it's not registering. Okay, let's see. I will learn about this damn poll one way or another. All right, why is it not registering? I don't know. All right, well, we'll figure that out. All right, I've got so much more to show you. Okay, so listen to Rubio talk about the Strait of Hormuz and why it's important to America. I think this is important.
President Trump has made it clear that the U.S. doesn't rely on the Strait of Hormuz. So why should Americans even care about Project Freedom and these shipping tankers going through?
Well, I think on the second point is the one I want to address first, and that is, why should Americans care and why it matters to us? Because ultimately these things have an impact on the global economy, which ultimately has an impact on our economy in the long term. That's number one. Number two, because if we live in a world where a rogue state like this Iranian regime is allowed to claim as a new normal control of our international shipping lane, it will not be long before you see that happen in multiple shipping lanes around the world. I can identify for you six or seven vital shipping lanes around the world that some countries can decide, guess what, if Iran was able to do it, we're going to do it too. We're not going to start charging tolls. And it'll get closer and closer to us. That's unacceptable. We cannot live in a world. There's a lot of time and energy been invested behind the idea that international waters are free for the free flow of goods. The stuff we make in this country and export has to go through international shipping lanes. And for us to live in a world where a country can decide, now we own the international shipping lane and you have to pay us if you want to use it, that is a normal that we will never be able to accept. And that's what the Iranians are trying to get us to do. So we're doing two things about it, and we haven't talked about the second one enough. The second thing we're doing is we're going to the UN. Everybody loves the UN, right? We're trying to go to the UN, and we're saying, okay, countries of the world, condemn this. Say that it is wrong for you to put mines there. It is wrong for you to shoot at commercial vessels. Guys, that's what we're talking about here. These guys are bombing commercial vessels. They're not bombing naval vessels. They're bombing commercial tankers. It's just outrageous. That needs to stop, and it needs to end. And if it doesn't, then the world should be diplomatically and economically isolating Iran as well. But if we live in a world where global shipping lanes can be taken over by countries, that'll have a direct impact on Americans in the short and the long term, and we can't let it start by Iran doing it. And we're the only ones that can do anything about it.
I love that answer. It makes so much sense. I can't even. Ramon says anti-war protesters are losers. Yeah, well, the first memories I have of anti-war protesters were the Vietnam protesters. I remember, and I've told this story before, I wore the bracelet of POW on my wrist for a long time. I don't know who was raising money with that. It was probably the USO, but I have that still somewhere. Let's see. So Kevin Wall. So we have a lot of twos, and I don't know why it's not updating, and that's pissing me off. Kevin Wall wants to know how Vivek Ramaswamy goes as VP. Well, he's running for governor right now. By then, maybe, I don't know. I got to tell you, my dream team would be, and I've said this before, Marco Rubio and John Fetterman. I know it's crazy, but that I would like a fusion ticket because I'm tired of everybody. I'm tired of the parties. I really am. Kevin says 1 or 2. Okay, Jeff Pardo is for someone else. Donald Trump, especially since the 2020 election was a fraud. Well, then that would mean he was already elected 3 times, though, Jeff, and it would be unconstitutional. I don't recall, Colleen, I don't recall hearing about an air force in Iran even before, or much of a military in general. Oh, no. They had a really big military. There's 90 million people in Iran, and they, you know, who built up the military was the Shah, we were friendly with when they were free. Because they had all that oil money from the 1970s. So he's the one who built up the militaries. I think we talked about it on the show. I'm pretty sure. Jeff Pardo says 4, and I'm guessing that means for Trump. Okay, Colleen and Tommy are showing each other love. I love this. Ramon, this is Obama and Biden couldn't beat Iran. Because they are trying to negotiate with terrorists. You have to understand the motivation for Iran. The motivation is it's a theocracy. So they believe to get the Messiah to come down, they have to start in Armageddon. That's it. Colleen says, didn't all that start after we went in, the mines and tolls and bombing commercial ships? Did we cripple them enough? They have plenty of drones, and yes, it happened after we went in. But I've got to say that, they were getting a nuclear weapon together, and Marco just said how. They were collecting an arsenal so that nobody could stop them from getting a nuclear weapon. They have the uranium. So they're now using the stuff that they were collecting after we got rid of after we buried the uranium. They were collecting weapons to try and stop anyone from stopping them. You get it? Okay. Oh, Colleen likes the ticket of Rubio and Fetterman. Angela said, Ricka says Rubio and DeSantis. That's another good one. There's a thing about DeSantis that I have, and I don't know what it is. I have to be honest with you. I love his policies, and I love that he's tough. There's a thing about him. But you know why you couldn't do Rubio and DeSantis? Because they're both from Florida. And it doesn't shape up well that way. Probably, Florida, South Carolina, but not even, I would say Florida, Texas, because, Texas is a big state and we need those people to come in. But maybe it doesn't even matter anymore where people are from. Maybe it doesn't. Who knows? The professor, actually, 1804, 1805, Jefferson sent in Marines, Presley O'Bannon to the shores of Tripoli against the Barbary pirates who controlled the Gibraltar Strait. Okay. And we know that happens to open the strait. So I guess what the professor is saying is we've done this before. Colleen says, I feel like we need to cripple them further. Well, I mean, their economy is in the toilet. The problem is that Russia and China keep on arming them. So that's why Trump put our own blockade there, so they can't get anything. And I think that's working. But, at the end of the day, you can't negotiate with this group, with the theocracy. You have to, the people have to overthrow this government, and they have to start their own. We have to somehow find a way to arm these people. The professor says, so the U.S. has been involved with this sort of things since the beginning. Yeah, absolutely it has. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's just nothing wrong with it. Let's see, what did I said Hormuz. All right, the UN. So listen to what Rubio says about the UN. This is really good.
What is the purpose of the UN? The UN was supposed to be a place where you could peacefully resolve global conflict. Right now you have a country who is unlawfully, criminally, and illegally taking possession of an international waterway and blowing up commercial vessels and putting mines in the water. I don't know if people appreciate how outrageous this is, how unacceptable it is that any country would fire and try to sink commercial vessels or put mines in the water. Both of these things are illegal. And so we're going to take it to the UN, and we're going to give it another chance to be a forum in which we're not even asking people to commit troops to the region and help blow up the Iranian boats. All we're asking them to do is to condemn it, to call on Iran to stop blowing ships, to remove these mines, and to allow humanitarian relief to come through because there's humanitarian aid that's trapped. That's it. This is a very modest request. And if you're telling me that the international community and hundreds of countries cannot rally behind that, then I don't know what the utility of the UN system is, if it can't even solve something as straightforward as that. And I think to both the Chinese and the Russians, I would argue and have argued that it is in their interest for that resolution to pass and for pressure to be brought on Iran, because it is in their interest not to see international waterways, including the Straits of Hormuz, be closed down and cause economic chaos to dozens and dozens of countries around the world.
So there was a resolution in the UN that America put forward, and it was vetoed. Just further shows you that the UN they're not our friend. They want our money. They're like an obstinate teenager. They want our money, but they want nothing to do with us. They think they're too cool for us. So I think that we need to be out of the UN. I think we need to be out of NATO. I do. I think that it's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy that they would veto that. Colleen says, and the UN put Iran on some kind of security board. Oh, no, human rights board. They put him on a human rights board, which is absolutely laughable. Okay, the professor, had Carter nipped Iran in the bud on Valentine's Day, 1979, when the sergeant was shot at the U.S. Embassy, 911 would have been avoided. Absolutely. Absolutely. Carter did not know what to do with Iran. And that's a problem. I mean, that's what happens with weak presidents. Carter was a weak president. He was, everybody loved him, but he was a weak president. And that's just, it's terrible. Piracy is a very serious problem in that area, says Andrew. Yes, it's always been. But really, yeah. We need to make sure that doesn't happen again. And as the professor rightly said, Thomas Jefferson was the one to get rid of the Barbary pirates. Yeah, Kevin, it was women's rights, it was human rights. The committee is, I believe it was women and human rights, which is laughable because there are no rights for women or anyone else except for men in Iran. And then those are categories, right? Colleen says there's shadow agency for the globalists. 1,000% a shadow agency for the globalists. And I'm just trying to understand. I don't know why the globalists are so into the Muslims. I mean, maybe because they have such control over people, they keep them dumb. Maybe. I'm not quite sure. The professor says it's long overdue. All of this is really long overdue. You're right, Professor. Vigard, you really have to defend the Fetterman pick. He's an outright Democrat with all of their principles, except for not funding the government. Right when you think he will vote with Republicans, he reverses. No. Wait, Wargard. I will defend it. That's not true. He's all for the SAVE Act, but the problem with the SAVE Act was they kept on piling shit on, which everybody had a problem with, and so do I. There was no reason that it couldn't have been kept clean. Fetterman is more an independent than he is a Democrat. He is not a lib by any stretch of the imagination. If anything, he's a blue dog Democrat. And that's okay. I'm okay with blue dog Democrats. The fact that he, of all the people, Fetterman is, thinks before he votes. He reads before he votes. And it's not just the Iran war he's good with, and it's not just Israel he's good with. He has been good with many policies he voted against shutting down the government for Obamacare. He voted against shutting down the government for ICE. Again, he supports the war. He supports the SAVE Act. He only pulled back from the SAVE Act when they started making it a whole pork belly fest. So he's a thinking, level-headed guy, which I'm shocked that I'm saying. And I think that we need that. I think that if we could find a fusion ticket, we could get rid of the loony left. And that's who we need to get rid of, the loony left. We have a loony right, too. I'm sorry if I offend anybody, but Q is too far to the right and too weird for me. Lots of things. They get tidbits and they run with it, but that's what happens with the loony left too. But if I had to go Q or loony left, I go Q. But they have a lot of false information, and I don't like it. So I just want normal people to all gather together, and independents to all gather together to eradicate the loony left and eradicate the rigid right, and let's get back to the center where we could talk to each other. That's my defense, Warguard. Colleen says that's right. I knew it was preposterous. Yeah, the human rights thing. Jeff Pardo, early on, Iran killed 10,000 of their own citizens early on. Much more sense. Yeah, I think it was after the protest. It was almost 30,000. They claimed. They bragged about it. The professor says Barbary pirates sold white slaves up until Marines arrived in 1905. Yeah, there were plenty of white slaves. People don't realize that slaves came in all colors. They still do. 1805. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I should have corrected it. I knew it was 1805 because Thomas Jefferson would have been really fucking old in 1905. Kevin Young, I don't trust the French sending the carrier Charles de Gaulle into the Strait just when we will end this war soon. Well, the war's ended. Okay. It was never a war. It was a military action, and it's over. Epic Fury is over. Now, what we're doing is we're playing gatekeeper. We're playing international police once again. And then for the first time ever, I actually sanction it, because what we're doing is we are now blockading. All the sanctions that's on Iran, nobody ever stopped the people who were trying to do stuff on the black market, but now we're doing that. So like China, would put their banner on our Iran ship. No, we're not letting that happen anymore. We're confiscating that oil. We are not doing business with Iran. We're bankrupting. We are not letting anybody do business with Iran. And if you are doing business with Iran, you have to answer for it. So, and I get what you're saying. Kevin, about, the French. The French are, I don't know. Yes, Fetterman, Colleen says Fetterman is against men and women's sports. Yes, he is. He really is. He is a blue dog Democrat. So Warguard, by his own words, he's a Dem. Again, he will not vote to shut the government down. I watched him when we were sure we would vote with us, and he ditched. But cool, I don't trust him. Listen, I hear what you're saying, but he didn't vote. He didn't vote to shut the government down. He voted against that. What he did ditch last minute was the Save America Act, the Voting Rights Act. He was all for it. And then Trump piled all that shit on. And he said, no, I can't do that. And I respect him for that. And nothing should have been piled on that. That thing should have sailed through just as it was, because the majority of people want it that way. All right, I don't want to go too long. I want you to listen to this. This is a question. I love this question and his answer.
Okay. Back row, yellow tie.
Thank you.
Back row, yes,
Secretary,
sir. Yeah.
At CBN News, you've had a deep faith for God and country. At the end of the day, with all that you've been involved in,
keep going.
You've been extremely busy.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
As we all know. I got to ask you, what is your hope for America at a time such as this?
My hope for America?
And how do you personally deal with that?
Yeah, look, I mean, my hope for America is what it's always been. I think it's the hope I hope we all share. We want it to continue to be the place where anyone from anywhere can achieve anything, where you're not limited by the circumstances of your birth, by the color of your skin, by your ethnicity, but frankly, it's a place where you are able to overcome challenges and achieve your full potential. I think that should be the goal of every country in the world, frankly, but I think in the U.S., we're not perfect. Our history is not one of perfection, but it's still better than anybody else's history. And ours is a story of perpetual improvement. Each generation has left the next generation of Americans freer, more prosperous, safer, and that is our goal as well. But it is a unique and exceptional country. And as we come upon this 250-year anniversary, I think we have a lot to learn and be proud of in our history. It is one of perpetual and continuous improvement, where each generation has done its part to bring us closer to fulfilling the vision that the founders of this country had upon its founding. So.
And just as the show ends, I'm in total darkness. All right, lovies, I love you all. I will see you on Sunday with a brand computer. Thanks for watching Let's Talk News. Please like us on Spotify and follow us on Spotify and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Or me. All right, love you. Gonna go because I can't see a thing.